Hey, what is up, awesome people? ShadyWags here, and I'm going to attempt to explain clearly as possible how to terraform in Astroneer to get flat surfaces and straight lines. This is going to be a rather comprehensive guide, and I'm going to go over land flattening, wall creation and flattening, corners, angles, ramps, doorways, and there's going to be some tricks along the way. And there's going to be a big one at the very end. I'm going to try to explain as much as I can and show as much as I can that is relevant. I know some people requested an unedited guide, and I'm not going to make you suffer through that, because when you're terraforming like this at the beginning of a game, there is a lot of downtime where you're just waiting for energy. Now, there is going to be extended parts, and there's going to be parts where I'm not talking. I mean, there's only so much one man can talk about smoothing before it starts to sound a little weird. And if you think someone clicking on a wall for 5 minutes is boring, this just may not be the video for you. And quite frankly, if that bores you, you may want to reconsider terraforming in Astroneer. Just saying. I will be using the first habitat, and my end goal here is going to be to create an A-frame structure. You know, those homes that used to be really popular, but in reality, the person probably just couldn't afford a roof. I'm not going to go with any pre-thought out plan on this entire build. It's just going to be totally on the fly. The reason I'm using the first habitat is the land underneath your very first habitat is really flat. In fact, it's one of the flattest areas on the planet. If you want to know why it's so flat, please watch my Terraforming Flat Surfaces Explained video as I go into much more detail there. The very first thing I'm going to do is locate compound and create 2 solar panels and some tethers. The 2 solar panels are going to give me more energy generation during the day and slightly speed things up. Now, why not go ahead and start placing down stations in order to get the larger solar panels and the wind turbines? Well, I don't know how this base layout is going to end up. So I don't want to go placing stations down now, then they end up not fitting correctly. So I would much rather just spend the extra time by waiting on energy. To level the ground flat, with the flattening tool selected, I'll begin making strokes going outwards from the habitat base with the flattening tool pressed in. I'll do this on all sides. The ground is made up of many polygons, and in order to make a flat surface, you must move and reshape these polygons. So after moving all the ground outwards from the habitat, you want to try to locate a large polygon like this one, and then attempt to get all the small polygons to flip or snap onto that larger polygon. So I'll put the flattening tool over that large polygon, hold down on that flattening tool, and then begin moving it out. If I don't see that I'm making any progress, I'll just move on to another area and then begin trying again until I do start seeing progress. Once you have a large flat area, then it's just a matter of holding down the flattening tool and dragging it around. In this instance, despite flattening a large area, I'm having issues with the smaller area right here. So what I'm going to do is work my way around and basically surround it so it has no choice but to flatten to the larger area. The surface is still not perfectly flat, so what I will do is continue flattening the area into a square by following a line. This is what I refer to as a line. It's the point where 2 sides meet. Finding and following lines while terraforming in Astroneer is very important, and it's one of the keys to creating flat walls, floors, and ceilings. I'm just going to continue following the side of this line, making the area into a large square. Once you have a perfectly flat area, it's very simple to flatten higher and lower than this height. If you want to flatten lower, all you have to do is remove out a portion of the ground, then hold the level tool to flatten that area underneath, and then just drag the tool. You could do this much deeper to create underground rooms, steps, or tiers. This also works for leveling up by adding material on top of that existing flattened structure and flattening out the top. I'm going to cut away from this build for a minute so I can show you how I level away from the first habitat. Here is just some random patch of ground, and I can start using the flattening tool, and possibly I could flatten the ground here. Sometimes you might be able to flatten it pretty quickly. It looks like I'm getting it flat, but if I look at this closer, these polygons are not snapping together, and that's because this is a puzzle. You have to find the right polys, and you have to be moving on that correct line. Now, unfortunately, that line could be at an upwards angle or a downwards angle. The easiest way to flatten a surface is to create a wall. And you can determine your angle pretty quickly just by creating a wall. So now from the bottom of that wall, if I just continue working the line, I can get the ground flat. And you can see it is at a very steep angle. So would it be possible to ever get a flat line in this area? It is flat in relation to the map, and for more info on that, I'm going to refer you again back to that Flat Surfaces Explained video. But as far as being flat in relation to your movement or the placement of an object here, I'm going to say no. I don't want to say no for sure, because I did flunk geometry, and someone may come out with some crazy formula to flatten anywhere, but I have not been able to do it. If your objective is to create a ramp up into the sky, you can do that from this angled flat surface. It's very easy just to use the flattening tool to keep extending that up further and further, and eventually that will reach up into the stars. Back to the first habitat, I have this cleaned out and I'm going to start working on the walls. In this case, all the walls have pretty much already been created for us. It's just a matter of flattening them out. First, I'm going to remove all the top material and then begin following the line on the floor. Now that the line on the floor is established, you'll notice that the wall is curved in. I'm going to place the flattening tool in the middle of that wall, then begin dragging it, keeping it right above the line. To shape the side wall, I'll need to level the floor back until it looks like it's in line with where it should be. You're just going to have to kind of eyeball this. Now the next part, in my opinion, is probably the most important part of terraforming, and that is corners. Corners are the key to creating almost everything in Astroneer, and by following the lines of your corners, you're going to guarantee yourself to get flat walls. If you create one flat wall in a corner, you're going to get that second flat wall in the next corner, and so on and so forth. I'll smooth out the long wall right up to the corner line, and then I'll attempt to flatten the side wall. As I continue flattening, you're going to see that the lines on the floor and the corners begin to take shape. When you start to get into areas like this where there's just one polygon that's off, you're going to need to use quick clicks with the flattening tool. If you click and nothing happens, you'll have to reposition that tool a bit closer and then try again. And sometimes you're just going to have to flatten and destroy a little bit of what you've already created to build it back up. As far as ceilings go, they're no different than doing walls. It's going to be the exact same techniques, following lines and working corners. As I'm flattening these walls, you can just imagine these are ceilings. There's no difference at all. Now I'm going to try to flatten this wall, but this one is going to be considerably more difficult. And the reason is it's smaller than the size of the Terraform tool. I would not recommend creating walls this small. I always try to make my walls a little bit larger than the Terraform tool, because what's going to end up happening is as I try to flatten this wall, it's going to start affecting the edge up on top. It's not impossible to flatten this, but it's going to be a juggling act between leveling the bottom wall, then going up top and leveling that back down. This wall is leveling at an angle, so I'm going to clip a little off the bottom and then flatten it again. To get the wall completely flat, I will begin working the corner on the side wall using quick clicks and the flattening tool. This wall was extremely difficult to flatten because it is a smaller wall and this is a confined space. And another reason, I was trying to put the wall on an incorrect line. I had that line up too far. By just sticking with it and trying to form it up against the corner, eventually the corner's pretty much going to tell me, hey, you're trying to put this on the wrong line, you need to put it here. And it's going to force me to move that wall back. I'm going to leave this part unedited because I feel it's important, but if you'd like to skip ahead, I'm going to add an annotation in the description to the next mark. Now that the bottom is flat, I'll begin removing the excess material from the top, and you'll see here why I hate these short walls, because it's a back and forth battle, and it's tough to get them completely flat. When you have a small amount of polys on top like this, what you want to do is use those short, quick clicks with the flattening tool to remove them. The other side wall is not too bad. You'll see here by using all those techniques, the flattening, following my lines, creating the corner, and using quick clicks, this wall quickly takes shape. Now I'm going to start creating a ramp, and I'll start by removing material from the top till I have an angle. Next, I'll start using quick clicks to shape the ramp. And I'm sorry here, guys, I can't really give a very detailed description on this. For ramps like this one, it's really going to vary from build to build. And you can see it's just really a lot of quick clicks to make the polys move into position. So I'm going to shut up for a while. And if you want to watch the ramp take shape, you can. Otherwise, there will be an annotation to the next section in the description. Building the wall up, I'm going to use pretty much the same techniques as I did before, but instead, I'm just going to add a row of material on top and then begin flattening. Now, the thing with this wall, I continued adding material, subtracting material, and flattening, but despite as much as I tried, this thing just kept wanting to angle backwards. Again, we're going to go back to our key, corners. By using corners, this is going to force your walls into flat surfaces. So I go ahead and extend the existing wall over and begin working that corner, and you'll see here before long that wall will eventually flatten out like magic. I'll go ahead here and blow out the side wall so I can show you guys angled walls and how those worked. I already have the beginning of a line here, so I'm just going to extend that out. I'll then add material on top and then begin flattening that angled wall. You could flatten this out to a sharp angle like this, or if you want an inside wall, just lengthen the outer straight wall and then you can work the angle wall against that inside corner. Now I'll just begin working on the side of the A-frame. I'll begin shaping the wall almost like I'm building a pyramid, lengthening both sides and then filling in the middle. Now, if I go back to this side of the wall, it's an absolute mess. If you try to flatten this side of the wall, all it's going to do is mess up the inside. And that's because this wall's just not thick enough. So in order to fix that, all you have to do is widen and flatten the edge. If you want perfectly smooth surfaces, you'll want to do this on any wall that the inside and the outside is going to be visible. And much like that short wall underneath, this is just going to be a juggling act between adding material, flattening, then cleaning up the other side back and forth until it's smooth on the edge and on the side. Now I'm just going to extend the edge all the way up to the top, and then I'll clean it all up by doing short flattening clicks. The other side, you can flatten the edge the exact same way, starting at the bottom and juggling back and forth. Or in my opinion, it's a lot easier just to start off at the top and use the existing flat edge to go off of that. Once that's flat, I'll extend it all the way back down and again clean it all up with quick flattening clicks. The back wall is the easiest part. It's pretty much done already. You just have to fill it in, connecting both sides together, and then again do cleanup. This is what I have so far. I'm going to go ahead and flatten the sides to make room for the walls. Then it's just a simple matter of flattening one of the walls out to the desired length. I could extend the other side, but I opt to go ahead and get the back wall ready by flattening the edge near the bottom, going back and forth between flattening and fixing the top until I have a smooth edge, and then I run that edge up to the top. Okay, that is done. Now I'm just going to extend the other side. Once that side is extended out, the back side is all ready to go. I just fill in the rest. And to clean everything up, I'll just make my way around the structure doing quick clicks. I'm going to go ahead and blow out a portion of the wall here to create a doorway. I really put that in a bad spot. If you do something like this, it's really no big deal. Just cover it up and then you can start over again. Doorways are worse than ramps. They are absolutely evil. And I used to hate them. They're just so difficult to get flat because of the short distance between the inner and outer walls. And just because everything is in such a small space. You have to keep going back and forth between each wall, flattening and fixing, until it takes shape. Well, this is the way I was doing it. There's an easier way to do this, and it's not going to drive you crazy. This is probably the biggest tip here. Once you have your doorway cut out, extend both sides of the walls outwards. That is going to give you a lot more polys to work with, and it's going to make it so much easier to flatten the inside walls. You can see here just how fast I'm able to get this inside wall flattened. Once both inside walls are flat, I'm going to extend out the ceiling, and this works the same way. It gives you more polys to work with, and once it's all flat, I'm just going to go and cut the excess off the outside. Then all you'll have to do is just use quick clicks to clean it all up. And the last thing, and we are done. These inside walls are a mess, but the problem is, unlike our front wall, these have not been thickened. So any attempt to flatten them out is going to mess up the outside walls. All you have to do is add a couple clicks of material on the inside, and then it should just all flatten out. That is about it, guys. That's everything I know up until this point. The most important things, find and follow your lines. Corners are the key. Use those quick flattening clicks to clean up polys and work in small spaces. And remember, sometimes you do have to destroy a little bit to build it back up right. And probably the number one thing, just like Axel said, it takes a little patience. I hope these techniques and tips help you build some truly awesome structures. I would really appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.